Hello, it's Peter from WhatCulture.com here.
And Scott from WhatCulture.com.
And we have spent a few days playing The Last Guardian.
Which seems crazy now that you say it, because it's one of those games it's almost mythical at this point. Someone over at Sony must have just got Fumito Ueda and just been like, can you just release it?
Yeah.
Just get it out there, so now it's finally available.
Now, talking of, potentially rushing it out, get it out there, what are your first impressions? Do you think it's justified that it's taken such a long time, or it's been rushed out at the last minute, or?
No, I don't think it's been rushed. I think it's a weird metric because a lot of people are coming into it going like, well, is this a game that looks like something that was developed for 10 years?
Yeah.
No. But my initial impressions when I first played it were, okay, this is everything I need it to be. I really loved it for the first few hours. I thought Trico's animation and his AI, or its AI, were like phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And coming out of it, I was like, okay, you can tell the bits that they've plucked from Ico and like the bits that they've taken from Shadow of the Colossus. They've taken the scope, the scale. For me, it was really, really good. But that kind of segued into more of like a feeling of negativity as it went on. But I mean, what was your take?
I mean, I went on the same path. I started out more positive, and as it went, I became less enthusiastic. I think you had more reservations about it, perhaps because it has been in the making for so long. And you've got things like Duke Nukem Forever. That's a prime example
of all the comparisons.
If you wait around for long enough, so it doesn't matter how much work you put in, it's just not going to work. But it's kind of, I feel like it's come out the other way.
Might have flipped,
overall now, although you may have found it less good as you went on, you're still kind of positive overall.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But for me, less so.
What sort of stuff put you off a little bit?
I think my headline problem is probably the controls and the movement, and kind of responsiveness. Not only the boy, my own character, but
who has no name. I don't think
he's just the boy.
The boy.
I think that's what his name is.
Boy.
But also, I say Trico. You say Trico.
Oh well.
The boy kind of. I feel like he says Trico there when you press the call button.
It's like
Trico.
It's.
You can say Trico if you want.
Yes, I'm gonna go with Trico.
I'm Team Trico. Hashtag Team Trico. It's spelled the same, so that doesn't work.
It is, but I mean tomato.
Okay.
Sorry.
Controlling the boy.
Yes.
I kind of feel like it's as though he's been designed for a different environment and he's been dropped in. Now he's got that adaptive locomotion. He sticks his arms out against walls and he'll sort of dodge around and tumble and builds up momentum. And I'm an advocate of that, and I love games that do that. It feels more natural. You're not just stuck to four directions. But I feel like he's been built with that to such an extent, and then dropped into what is some pretty rugged terrain. We're walking around ruins, there's cracks, there's loose tiles all over the place, and I kind of feel like he reacts too much to broken steps and that sort of thing.
It's a little bit clumsy.
Yeah.
Which I think, that's one of my overall takes from it, is that every single bit of it feels very deliberate.
Yeah.
I think that they've gone out, in terms of the movement, it's exactly the same as Shadow of the Colossus. It's very much, you land and he stumbles, he gathers his feet, and then he keeps going.
Yeah.
There's definitely a sense of momentum to everything, which does feel clumsy, but to me, I actually quite like that, because it is like a boy trying to climb, trying to get through these environments.
You see toddlers sort of falling over. They take 3 steps and then they're just on the floor. And it's that kind of. He's not a toddler, but you know what I mean.
But
he's
that
a young
sort of
boy.
Yeah, that sort of energetic, scrabbling to get especially when you start interacting with Trico, and you want to get onto him, and you're sort of running after him, falling, I don't mind that. It does get in the way of some of the climbing, which I guess is one of the problems you were saying about some of the puzzles that revolve around climbing. Kind of thing.
I understand that, and I can see maybe it was deliberate. I think something you said outside the studio was that it's very much the creator's vision, and there's little to no conformity or troping, or he's just gone, this is how I'm going to make the game.
That's one of the biggest positives, which is going to be one of the biggest negatives too. It's not a mainstream game. As much as Sony are pushing this as this massive, 10 years in the making, big Last Guardian thing, that's really not for a mainstream audience. There's no vision modes, there's no markers, there's no way to help you through. If you get stuck, it is you and that bird dog thing, Trico, trying to figure out the way out, and that's it. There's no real help or anything. I like that. I think that's quite refreshing, especially in today's modern climate with a lot of hand-holding in other games. But I can see that putting a lot of people off.
I think there's a way to do it. I think I like having no HUD. I like having little to no hand-holding. But I do find myself getting stuck a lot. And I think part of the problem is that one small aspect of hint giving that I have noticed is that Trico does seem to some extent, he'll kind of look where you meant. I don't know if you notice that. They look up at a ledge and you go, oh, he's looking at that. I guess I'm meant to be going up there. But then later on, I was getting confused a little bit because although his idle animations are a masterclass, and I think we'll talk about that in a minute. Sometimes I find him looking quite intently at certain ledges or doorways, and I'm like, well, it must be something to do with that. So I feel like if you're going to set a precedent of, okay, let's have a subtle hint by making the creature look to where you're supposed to be going, you need to be careful with what he then does, you know, looking in an erroneous place.
Because you end up taking every one of his animations as gospel, which I mean, to get on to Trico's general animation, for me, this is the thing that sells the game. Like, I don't think there's been a better animal done in video games, like, ever.
No.
I mean, we've had Peter Molyneux and the dog in Fable 2, and, like, Trico's on another level. Like, I mean, if you've owned an animal yourself, you'll know that weird connection that we have with, like, animals where you go, like, I wonder what they're thinking. I can kind of tell what they're thinking. And that comes through wholeheartedly. Like, I like the stuff where he's a little bit, you know, unsure of where he's going to go, and you can guide him. I mean, like, in terms of controlling, you can call him to you, and then a few hours into the game you learn like 4 more commands. Some of his abilities in terms of his general animation, it's very he's reactive, like he's reacting to the environment sometimes along with you. And when that syncs up, there's a really great feeling of it's me and this monster, this creature exploring together. And for me, there had some really cool, like, what felt like dynamic moments where, like, I climbed up a thing and I turned around and I said in my head, come on, like, you know, come on, and he, like, looks up, he sort of thinks about it, and he jumps up, and you're like, yeah, good boy. And, like, when that hits, there's nothing else like that. I'm just like, that's really cool. That's very, very well done.
The main event in this game, as it should be, is the creature itself. And not only is it animated really well, I think it looks fantastic.
Oh god, yeah, the visuals.
It's probably the best looking part of the entire game. I think in terms of the environments, some of the interior areas are a bit bland, a bit samey. I find that when you get outside, though, things look better, partly because I think the lighting engine has been done really well.
There's some great bloom effects, like especially when you come out of the temples. Like, I mean, it's been done in a few games now, but like when you come out, you get the whole you're blinded by the light, and then Fallout style, and like you sort of, it feels a little bit, or I kind of think it feels like it only has 2 tile sets for environments. So far, anyway. I mean, I'm a fair whack through it. But you're either in brown interiors or you're in green and light grey exteriors, and they look nice. They look great, especially the exteriors look phenomenal. But over the course of how long the game is, like 10+ hours, box puzzles, climbing, it does get repetitive.
I think he's also not super responsive. I think the animations themselves, as we said, are good, but getting him to actually do them that's some of the problem.
That's the weirdest thing with the way that you control them, because once you learn the 4 other commands, you can say, like, you know, you point and you go blah blah blah, and then, like, he sort of looks and he thinks about it, but if you hit anything else, it's kind of like there's a weird kind of push and pull with how much you can tell him to do.
I kind of like what you've said to me about I think you compared it to, well, you said it's quite like having an actual cat, or, I mean, less so a dog. I think they're slightly more obedient.
Dogs are way,
but you know, you're going, please do this thing. I'm trying to get you to do it. And I can see that some people would find that, you know, oh, it's a great simulation of having a giant pet.
It's as annoying as having a real cat when it won't come to you.
Exactly, but I think while some people might call that a plus, I think others would say, I don't want to have to deal with that kind of thing.
That's
the crowd.
Yeah, that's what factors into my whole, it's the best animal in a game ever. Like, it comes with the downsides of that too.
It does,
Like, which I like, and I'm a cat owner, so I'm like, I'm gonna get on board with that weird sort of temperamental mentality that cats have. So whether you're a dog or a cat person might even dictate how you're going to approach that.
Maybe
well, there you go.
This is it.
We figured it out. In terms of the puzzles and stuff, what you're actually doing, like, minute to minute, other than interacting with Trico and climbing stuff, mostly seems to boil down to find a switch or find a crate. It's not that they're necessarily arduous or, like, hard, but in the long run, I found them to be quite repetitive.
I found them repetitive, and I found that they're not difficult in as much as they've not been built in a complex way.
No.
But I struggle as well to know what is a real ledge and what isn't. I think the actual grabbable ledges are few and far between. I think pretty much the only grabbable ledges are the ones that you're supposed to take, which in a way is good, because once you found a ledge, jump on you're on the right lines. But at the same time, they're not actually super visible. You know, something like Uncharted, you know, like, it's supposed to go.
Yeah, it's not Mirror's Edge where it like highlights the ledge. That's the thing. You drill it down, like, they're not making a game for the mainstream.
No.
They're making a game for people who loved Ico and Shadow of the Colossus and loved the back and forth and the physics and the feel of those games.
And the companionship as well.
And definitely the companionship. That's the thing in terms of the stuff that they've pulled from those other 2 games. Like, that sort of, like, no, you come to me kind of feel. And like you can tell the team are just, they want you to interact with its systems. It's not going to tell you what you need to do.
No. I remember one case in point actually where they've clearly just gone like, screw you to conformity. Is I was standing on this ledge, you might even remember, there's a broken bridge you're supposed to jump across. But in order to get there, it took me 15 to 20 minutes to realise I can fit through those bars. And that is the kind of thing where if you've been gaming for 20 years, you don't know that you can fit through a portcullis because you just can't fit through portcullises in games. That never ever happens. Once you work it out, you're like, well, obviously I can. I could see that I could fit through there, but I just didn't bother.
Yeah, it's very true. It's like a waist-high wall.
Yeah.
You can't get over it. Oh, but I had the exact same thing, and I went, oh, of course I can get through that space.
Yeah, and in a way, you can kind of hear the devs going, "You're an idiot." Like, why? You know you're supposed to go through there. You can see, like, there's a corridor, and you're thinking, how do I get through those really wide bars?
Just walk through it, mate.
Yeah, just walk through it. So. Unapologetic is what it is.
Yep, I think it feels as proficient, as artistic, and as intentionally unapologetic as Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, which is just as in line with what I wanted. I think it's a perfect third part of that trilogy. So for me, I'm very positive on it, but the only thing that gets in the way is the occasional Trico stuff and the repetition of some of the puzzles. Yeah,
I think technically and sometimes visually, it's a bit last gen. You can tell it's been being made for 10 years. There are pros and cons, and I should play a bit more before I make my mind up.
It's going to divide. It's going to divide people like any sort of game not targeted for a mass audience would. And I appreciate that. I like that. I like the artistic vision that they've kept intentionally. So, like, it feels like the thing that they should have released straight after Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
For better or worse, this is the game that you wanted 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a positive. But I get that there's a bunch of things that they could have refined further, given the time they had in development.
Yeah, that's the thing. When it's been that long.
As objectively as a game, though, I thought it comes together fairly well.
Yeah, I'll give it some more time, and we'll do a full review this week.
Cool.
So, as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for a full review, and plenty more reviews for other games.
Yes.
I've been Peter from WhatCulture.com.
I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll see you soon.